Hi, I'm Naomi. I'm one of the dietitians here at Peter Mac. We're here to support you after you have your ileostomy formed, which we'll refer to as your stoma. In this video, we'll cover some important and helpful information about eating and drinking now that you have an ileostomy. So we'll talk about what is your bowel, what is your ileostomy or your stoma. We'll talk about managing the output of the stoma, so how to stay hydrated, how to look out for signs of dehydration. We'll talk about managing a high output, foods that can help thicken up and slow down your stoma output, as well as preventing a blockage. We'll also cover some useful information about reducing odour or gas coming out from the stoma, colour changes and medications. So what is the bowel? The bowel, which we also call the intestines, is part of the digestive tract. It is like a long soft tube that connects the stomach to the anus or your bottom. The bowel includes the small bowel, which we also call the small intestine. So all of the food and fluids that you eat and drink travel from the stomach into the small bowel where they are digested, which means they are broken down into small enough pieces so that they can be absorbed by the body, which means small particles pass into your bloodstream. Most of the nutrients are absorbed in the small bowel. What is left over then moves from the small bowel into the large bowel, which we also call the large intestine or the colon. The main role of the colon is to absorb water and salts or electrolytes from food and fluids into your bloodstream, and the leftover continues through your bowel and becomes stool or feces or poo. So the colon's really important in keeping us hydrated. So what is your ileostomy? An ileostomy, which can be referred to as your stoma in short, is made by bringing the end of the small bowel or the ileum to the skin surface. This is where your stool or poo passes out from. When you have an ileostomy, your body does not absorb fluid or salt as well anymore, because what you're eating and drinking isn't moving on to your colon where that's usually absorbed. Luckily, your body is clever and your small bowel will adapt to absorb more fluid and salt. The small bowel takes time to adapt. Most of the adaptation happens within the first 2 months of having the stoma, but can take up to 6 months. As your small bowel adapts, your ileostomy output should lessen to less than a litre a day and begin to thicken to a porridge-like consistency. Your ileostomy output can be affected by many things, including the types of food and drinks that you're eating and drinking, different medications, treatments such as chemotherapy and radiotherapy, exercise, and even our emotions. Because your body cannot absorb fluid as well, you are at a higher risk of becoming dehydrated, so it's important to watch for the signs that you may be dehydrated. This can include feeling thirsty or having a dry mouth, having a headache, feeling quite tired or fatigued, having dark concentrated urine, feeling dizzy, particularly when you stand up. Even stomach cramps or nausea or vomiting can be a sign that you're dehydrated. So if you're experiencing any of these, we encourage you to seek medical advice immediately. So it's really important to keep your body hydrated by drinking 2 to 2.5 litres of fluid a day. So this could include water, milk, including the milk that you're putting on your cereal or your porridge in the morning, teas and herbal teas, soups, and diluted juices or cordials. Now, there's some fluids that can increase the movement of your food and drinks through your bowel and therefore can increase your stoma output and cause you to become more dehydrated. So you are able to drink these drinks, but monitor your intake and note how they're affecting your output. So caffeine-containing beverages, things like your coffee, beloved coffee, energy drinks, black tea, all contain caffeine, so you can enjoy these, but just be careful about the amount that you're drinking. Alcohol makes your bowel move more quickly as well, so monitor your intake of wine, beer and spirits. Even the supplements that your dietitian might have given you in the hospital can be high in sugar, so they can make the bowel move more quickly. So similarly with full strength juice and soft drink, they can increase the stoma output. So the way to enjoy your juice is to dilute it by half juice and half water, as I've done here. Now, if your stoma output is increasing or if it's quite watery, it can be really helpful to drink some electrolyte drinks, things like sports drinks, so Powerade or Gatorade, or oral rehydration solutions that you can buy from the pharmacy, such as your Gastrolyte or Hydrolyte. And also, snacking on some salty foods can be a really great way to replace the salts and electrolytes that you're losing. So snacking on things like your pretzels, cheese and biscuits, or having some Vegemite on toast. So it can be really helpful to keep a track of how much is coming out into your stoma bag each day, particularly for the first 6 weeks while your bowel's still adapting. So as a general rule of thumb, if you have 3 to 4 fingers on the bottom of your stoma bag, that indicates about 200 mils of output. So you might want to take note of how many times you empty the bag in 24 hours, a day and a night, and just jot down in a notebook how many times you're emptying it. Ideally, we want the stoma output to reduce down to under a litre each day, with picking up to a porridge-like consistency. And we want to make sure that the stoma output's not more than 1.5 litres in one day. If your stoma output is watery or over 1.5 litres in a day and a night, we call this a high output ileostomy. If your output's consistently high, then it can lead to dehydration quite quickly, but also losses in nutrients and salts. So this can lead to dehydration, fatigue and tiredness, and also as your body's not able to absorb all the nutrients it needs, it can lead to weight loss and malnutrition. If your stoma output is high or consistently watery, it's important to contact your doctor or stoma therapy nurse for some assistance. The types of foods and drinks that you're having have a really big impact on the stoma output and the consistency, so there are things that you can do with your diet to help reduce the stoma output. So if your stoma output's over 1.5 litres in a day, we recommend drinking 1 litre of double strength Gastrolyte or Hydrolyte, and making sure that you are drinking 2 to 2.5 litres of fluid in a day. So you have 1 litre of the double strength Gastrolyte or Hydrolyte and another litre of, say, water or milk. If the stoma output's high or watery, it is really important to avoid these drinks: caffeine, juice, alcohol. So it's normal for undigested food pieces to pass through into your stoma. It's rare that a food piece can get stuck in the stoma and cause a blockage, but it's important to be aware that this can happen and how to avoid a blockage. So if you have a blockage, you might notice that the stoma stops working, stops producing output, or that the output becomes quite watery. You might notice that the stoma becomes a bit swollen, or that your abdomen becomes swollen. You might even feel some cramping pain, some nausea and vomiting. If you think you have a blockage, stop eating solid food, but continue to drink fluids. Don't take laxatives. You might want to take a mild analgesia or painkiller. It can help sometimes to rub your abdomen in a clockwise direction. Some people find that putting a warm wrapped hot water bottle on the abdomen can help, or even having a warm bath. Foods which are high in insoluble fibre that doesn't get soft and broken down into our bowel are important to avoid while you have an ileostomy. So these foods include things like your whole nuts and seeds, coconut, dried fruit like your apricots, figs, sultanas or raisins, popcorn. So here I've got muesli, so that includes things like your raisins, your bran, pieces of nuts and seeds, which wouldn't be okay to eat. Your raisin bread, because it has pieces of dried fruit in it. You'd also avoid multigrain bread. It's important to avoid stringy parts of fruits and vegetables, so the stalks of celery are really stringy, as are the stalks of things like your asparagus. Foods like your peas, corn, nuts and seeds are quite notorious for getting stuck, so avoid those. And also the stringy parts and the pith of your citrus fruit are important to avoid as well. The risk of the stoma getting blocked is higher in the first 6 weeks of having the stoma, as the stoma is a little bit more swollen and so the passage is smaller. So as well as avoiding these foods, for the first 6 weeks it's also important to avoid skins and peels of fruits and vegetables. So certainly okay to still eat your fruits and vegetables, just make sure you're peeling things like your carrots, apple, avoiding the skins of things like your pumpkin, sweet potato. So we encourage you to eat a wide variety of fruits and vegetables and wholesome foods while you have your ileostomy. So in addition to your starchy vegetables like your pumpkin, sweet potato and potato peeled that I just mentioned, you can have things like wholemeal bread, white bread, peeled carrots. You can have vegetables like broccoli and cauliflower as long as you're avoiding the stalks. Eating apples, bananas and pears that have been peeled is fantastic. Also foods like pasta, including your wholemeal pasta, rice, oats, wheat bix, smooth peanut butter are all fantastic. If your stoma output is watery or runny, some of these same foods can be really helpful in helping to thicken up and slow down that output. So these are mainly our starchy foods. So again, wholemeal or white bread, pasta, rice, potato, sweet potato. Eating things like your cheese and biscuits, smooth peanut butter, hummus and salty snacks like your pretzels can be helpful. It's normal for your stoma output to have some odour when you're changing the bag. This is completely fine, but if it's offensive to you, there's some things in your diet that can help. So we know that for some people, eating foods like onion and garlic, eggs and fish can increase the odour in the bag. To help reduce the odour, you can have foods such as yogurt, buttermilk or Yakult. Things like stewed peeled apple, cranberry juice or parsley that's been really finely chopped. It's normal for air or gas to build up in the ileostomy bag. If this is becoming inconvenient for you, there's some things that can help. So it's helpful to reduce the amount of air that you're swallowing, so you can try eating slowly and chewing really well. Avoid swallowing more air by avoiding drinking through a straw, avoiding smoking or chewing gum. You can also try and limit your intake of foods which can cause more gas build-up for some people. So these are foods like your baked beans and lentils and legumes, vegetables such as your Brussels sprouts, broccoli, cabbage, onion and garlic, or also fizzy or carbonated drinks or beer. Some foods and medications that you eat and drink will change the colour of the stoma bag, so this is really normal, don't be alarmed. I think having foods like tomato, beetroot juice can cause a reddish colour in the bag, don't be alarmed. Also eating foods like spinach or sometimes your iron supplements will change the colour of your stoma output as well. If you see undigested pills or medications in your stoma bag, it's important to contact your doctor, stoma therapy nurse or pharmacist to discuss this. We might need to help you slow down the movement of the food and fluid through your bag and thicken up your output so that your body has a chance to absorb these medications, or you might need to change the form in which they're prescribed so that you can absorb them more quickly. The most important things to remember with your new ileostomy is to help keep your body hydrated by drinking 2 to 2.5 litres of fluid each day. Monitor your stoma output to ensure that it's not over 1.5 litres each day. Your output will vary in consistency across the day and from day to day. Some foods may impact your output differently to another person, so take note of what foods and drinks cause you more liquid output. Avoid foods that cause a blockage. You are able to enjoy a wide variety of nourishing and wholesome foods with your ileostomy. And remember, your dietitian team here at Peter Mac is here to help. So if you've got any questions or concerns with your stoma output or your diet, don't hesitate to contact contact the nutrition department. Thank you.